if you feel like your hip mobility is, you know, quite fluid already, you're able to sit into a squat without pain or pinching in your hips, but you want to advance it a bit more, then this is for you. Okay, so first exercise we're going to do, we're going to need a long band for this one. Now, the thicker the band, the more resistance it's going to have and the harder it's going to be. So pick whatever you need to for your ability. And we're going to go into a little 90-90 positions. We'll have both our legs in two 90-degree angles facing over one side. And we're going to have our band looped around the back ankle. And here, all we're going to be doing is lifting up that back leg against that band. So that band's going to kind of help us lift up there. And then we're going to be resisting against the band and pushing the band back down. Now we're going to have the other side of the band pulled over our shoulder, and the more of the band you have pulled over your shoulder, the harder this is going to get, because it's going to add more resistance. So if you're finding it too tricky, just only have a tiny bit of the band over your shoulder. And if you're finding it too easy, then you can pull loads of the band over your shoulder, and you're just going to be resisting against that band, pushing that back knee down. We're going to be using our band again for the next exercise here. This one I'm going to tie it around something, so tie it around like a squat rack or the cable machine. We're going to go into a 90-degree angle, so we're going to be sitting with legs out in front of us, and we're trying to push our knees down into 90 degrees. Now if you watch my hips and my bum, I'm really trying to keep my bum on the floor and my hips still. So my hips are still facing forwards. I'm trying to not let my hips move. The band is going to be looped around just above my knee, and it's going to be the closest knee to the band here. And you'll be trying to push against that band to get that knee down into the center. Again, you can notice from my hips and bum that I'm trying to keep those really still. But you're trying to push against that band, trying to get that knee down to the floor without letting those hips or bum slide around too much. The other knee will also drop to the side, but we're mainly focusing on the knee that's pushing against that band, trying to reach the floor. Same thing here, the thicker the band, the harder it's going to be, and the closer you sit to where you've tied the band to, the easier this one's going to get. So pick where you need to for your kind of level of resistance. You can go as far or as close as you need to, but the real main focus here is those hips and bum really still. And if you watch my hips, you can see that I'm trying not to shift them, trying to keep both bum cheeks planted down into the floor as you're doing this one. Really keep it stuck down as you push that knee down into the center. You might not be able to get your knee all the way to the floor, and that's absolutely fine. You will also find the more you sit up straight, the harder this one becomes. So if you're finding it really difficult, you can kind of lean backwards and put your hands further behind you to make it a little bit easier if you need to. So next one is going to be a bit more of a really deep internal rotation. So we're going to go onto an all four position, and we're going to have our knees glued into the floor, and then one foot is going to lift off of the floor. I'm then going to try and rotate that heel as close as I can in, and then really push it out as far to the side as I can. The aim on this one, similar, we're trying to not let our hips move around too much. So you can notice that my hips are pretty still. I'm also not using my core to squeeze to the side. So if you watch my chest and my arms, my shoulders, everything there kind of stays really, really still. The only thing you should notice moving is my leg. So I'm just rotating into that deep hip joint, trying to push that heel as far out to the side as I can. Also trying to keep the toes relatively close to the floor. So try not to bend the knee too much where your heel is like coming towards your bum. Try and keep the toes relatively close to the floor. Now, if whilst you're doing this one, you're like, oh, I want to add a little bit more spice, get it a little bit more difficult, you can add a band to this one. So you can see here I've got a band looped around my ankles. This is a little mini band. You can get them in, again, different resistances, but you're looking for a little mini band on this one, so not one of the long ones. Exactly the same, you're trying to push against that band and control the way back in. Same thing here, we're trying to keep toes close to the floor and nothing moving but the hip. This one without the band is already quite spicy, so don't feel like you need to add a really heavy band or too much resistance if you don't want to. But we're trying to make sure that we don't pull the other leg or anything as we move with that band. We're trying to really just push from the internal rotation of that hip. We're then going to do a very similar movement here, but this one's even a little bit harder than that one, just because this time we're going to be kind of defying gravity, pushing against gravity on this one. So we are going to have a little bit of a foam. You can either use a foam block or a foam roller or anything really that you can place in between your knees on this one. So I'm using like a foam cylinder type thing, but you can use a foam block if you have a foam block or whatever really works. And we're going to be sat on the floor with our bum nearest the wall and feet are going to be on the wall. Our legs again bent at a 90-degree angle for this one. From here, I'm going to be squeezing that foam block or foam roller in between my knees the whole time, and I'm going to be lifting that heel up. So you'll notice that the kind of movement I'm doing is almost the exact same as the one before, but this one, as I lift up, I'm obviously going against where gravity wants to take my leg, so it's a little bit more tricky. You'll also find that you can't really cheat from your hips here at all, it's because you're lying on the floor. So it's a lot stricter in the position here. So again, I really want to squeeze those knees together, so I never want that foam block to fall. I don't want the foam roller to roll around too much. I want to keep it really, really still in between those knees, and all I want to do is just lift that heel into the sky. Now again, similar rules apply to this one as the other one. We want to keep our foot fairly close to the wall. So I don't want to bend my leg loads and loads so that that foot comes really far away from the wall. I want to keep it relatively close as I go up and as I come back down. Again, same rules apply. If you're finding it too easy, you can simply add a little mini band. So exactly the same as before, little mini band around the ankles here. And we want to be lifting up against that band and then again controlling it back down. So I want to make sure that band doesn't just pull my leg back down. I'm going to control against that band as I come back down into it. Again, the harder band you use, the more intense it's going to get. You don't necessarily need to use a band on this one. Like I said, it's pretty difficult without, so feel free, if you're just doing this body weight, that's absolutely fine as well. Just go for whatever feels good for you. And you can use a really light band as well if you just want a little bit of resistance, but you don't want too much on this one. So again, just go for whatever feels right here. And same rules again, we are always leading from the heel on this one. We're never trying to lead from those toes. We're just pushing the heel up and then coming back down. This next movement is another little internal rotation one. This is going to be really good for working both your internal rotation at the same time, which is going to be really important for stuff like squats when you want both to be working at the exact same time. So again, we're going to use a foam block or a foam roller or anything really that you can hold in between your knees. You can use like a wall ball or anything, or if you're at home, even just like a water bottle or something. And we're just going to squeeze those knees together against whatever you're holding and push the heels out to the side. We will be sitting on like a bench or a chair on this one, and the further you lean back, easier this will get. Now same, if you want to add more resistance, go for a little bit of a band around those ankles, so exact same as before. Again, this one's tricky, you don't need to add too much resistance if you're already finding it hard. And same, we are pushing from our ankles, we're not pushing from the toes, we're pushing from the ankles. And same, we're trying to control the way out and control the way back in. So we're going back to the long band on the next one. Now you can also actually use a cable machine for this, and use like a cuff that you have on a cable machine, and you can put the cuff around and then use that. Now with this band, we want to tie it again to somewhere secure, so squat rack, cable machine, whatever, tie it round, and then we're going to sit on a bench and we're going to loop this band around our ankle here. Same thing here, the further you lean back, the easier this one will get, and the more you sit upright, the harder. So up to you what feels good. From here, we're just going to be squeezing against that band and trying to lift our heel as far up as we can. Now this one's going to be working the external rotation as opposed to the internal, which we were just working. We're trying to squeeze that heel as far in as we can. Now big goal on this one is to not let your knees move around too much. So you really don't want the knee to be floating backwards and forwards or lifting up in the sky and going back down. We're really trying to keep it as still as we possibly can. We're also relatively trying to keep hips and bum still. So if you kind of watch where my hands, my core, my hips and my bum is, that doesn't really move. I keep that really still. I'm just holding on to the bench for support. I'm not using it to help push off the bench or anything else. I'm just holding that bench purely for support, and I'm just keeping those hips and bum really, really, really still. Now, if you do feel like your knee keeps kind of floating around or moving at all, then you can make sure to kind of hold onto your knee. So if you feel like it's really, really moving around, just use your hand, pop it on top of your knee, and kind of just support your knee so it doesn't move too much. We're trying to also make sure that we keep your hamstring and your thigh down onto that bed. So next up, we do also want to start strengthening in that mobile position. So something that's really good for that is a Cossack squat. Now you can do like dynamic Cossack squats when you're warming up. That's where you kind of alternate between sides. You just do a body weight and you focus on kind of getting into that deep stretch. But here we're going to actually load it a bit more. So we're going to add weight. So we're going to go into that wide stance and we're going to hold a weight in the opposite leg to the bent knee. We are then sending ourselves down into that bent leg. We're bending our knee over our toe and we're keeping the other leg relatively straight here. And I'm really trying to make sure that knee pushes outwards over the toe. So I'm going into kind of quite a deep external rotation in that bent leg, trying to open it up and then drive through that foot to come back up to the top here. And that's really going to help strengthen in that mobile position. And that's it, guys. That is the advanced hip mobility routine that is going to get you some unreal mobility in those hips. It's really going to help you when you're doing your squats and just generally be pain-free when you're moving and to rehab any kind of injuries. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe and let me know what you want to see in the next one. But for now, look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.